Welcome back to my channel at The Movie Optimist, where I try and find the silver linings in even the worst of films. Tonight, I just got done watching Sam Raimi's newest film, Send Help. And in this film, Rachel McAdams plays a woman that has worked for this company for a very long time, and she is soon lined up to get a promotion. However, when the owner of the company winds up dying, he leaves the company to his son, which is played by Dylan O'Brien, and his son is an absolute asshole who wants to bring in all of his friends to kind of fill these important positions. And she kind of gets sidelined after years of hard work, which makes her pretty resentful, like it would anybody else that has worked hard at something and gets sidestepped by some kid out of college. And when Dylan O'Brien sees that she's upset about this, he tells her that if she really steps up to the plate during this trip that they have to take to Bangkok to like secure some kind of business transaction, that he'll consider giving her the position of like VP instead of his friend, which we all know is a lie. But anyway, they go on this trip, and while on the plane, they run into a storm, and it winds up destroying the plane, sending them crashing to an island where the only two survivors are Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams. While on this island, however, Dylan O'Brien is pretty useless because he's had a silver spoon in his mouth his whole life. He's never really learned how to do anything for himself. He doesn't know how to cook. He has people cook for him all the time. He doesn't know how to fish or do anything like that that could really benefit him on this island. But Rachel McAdams' character has always wanted to be on the show Survivor, so she's trained her whole life for this kind of scenario. So there becomes a power struggle, a power shift on this island where she went from the person that was not in charge, taking orders, she was always stepped all over, to now being the person that Dylan O'Brien relies on, food and shelter. And Dylan O'Brien is not used to being so submissive to somebody, and it creates this very interesting power struggle, power dynamic between the two of them, where she starts to like being in control because she's never been able to be in control in her entire life, not growing up, not in her own failed marriage, not at her job, and now she is, and it starts getting to her head and making her a little crazy. And that's kind of where the meat of this movie is. In a lot of ways, if you are a Sam Raimi fan, you are going to have an absolute field day with this film because it has all the crazy transitions that Sam Raimi films have. It has all the crazy camera work. It has the Sam Raimi overacting, but not in a bad way. Like when people are screaming, they're not just screaming. They're screaming and there's like mucus and saliva coming out of their mouth. He tells them to pretty much go up to an 11. You don't go up to 10, you go up to an 11. It's almost like an anime character that has to scream everything. They're very hypersensitive, and it's only something that you ever really see in a Sam Raimi film. And in that aspect, this movie was a lot of fun. Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams give some performances here that I have never seen either of them give. I love Dylan O'Brien. He is one of, I'd say, in my top 20 favorite actors. I loved that movie he came out with a couple years ago during the pandemic. I believe it was called Love and Monsters. I loved the Maze Runner films. He's just a really charismatic and fun character to watch, and I really enjoy the selection of movies he's in. And Rachel McAdams, I mean, I'm so used to seeing her as like a heartthrob, and then she took that turn in True Detective season 2, I believe it was, where she was playing a cop with a past, and she was really great in that dynamic, dramatic role. And here she really gets to let loose. She really gets to play with very interesting material. She's going crazy. She's learning how to hunt. She's killing wild boars with a spear in very violent ways. There is a lot of practical blood getting sprayed all over her in this film. There's a lot of vomit. There's a lot of really gross things that you would come to expect from a Sam Raimi film. Again, if you're a fan of Sam Raimi, I would have to imagine you are going to love this film. And I really enjoyed this film. It's funny at times. There's some great dark humor in it. There's some great fight scenes. There's some great violence. There's some great moody atmospheric scenes, specifically on a beach at night where they chose to fog the whole beach up. You even get some like really creepy imagery when Rachel McAdams is, I'll say, hallucinating, and you get some very distinct, iconic Sam Raimi type visuals. That was a lot of fun. It was a very big feast for Sam Raimi fans. And the thing that really works in this film is the self-contained nature of it. It's not this massive cast. There's a couple people in the very beginning of the film, but after the plane crash, this is really Dylan O'Brien and Rachel McAdams front and center. It's them, their chemistry with each other, and their chemistry is absolutely phenomenal. It's firing on all cylinders. It is, and this is so cheesy to say, but it is so true, fireworks. Now, there are movies where you could clearly tell people are there for the paycheck and they have no chemistry and they're just showing up to say their lines and leave. Then there are movies where the chemistry is fine. It's passable. You don't notice that it's bad. You don't notice that it's good. You don't really care for it. It's just fine. And then there are movies where the chemistry just truly makes you believe that these people are either in love or really best friends or really enemies. I saw a movie a couple years ago called We Live in Time with Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh, and I was convinced after leaving that theater that they were in fact truly in love because that's how electric their chemistry was. That's how I felt felt in this movie. They were so incredible together, and it's their chemistry bouncing back and forth of each other, and this shift in power, the shift in dynamic. Rachel McAdams getting into her head that she's in control, and that kind of turning her crazy, and Dylan O'Brien going crazy because he's realizing she's going crazy, and he feels that his life is at stake. It's just such a great, tense movie. That's the thing that this movie has going for it above all else, because really it is a slow burn. You could slowly see the seams start to unravel in Rachel McAdams' head, and she starts doing things that are more and more haunting, more and more risky, more and more crazy, until the climax, which I had an absolute blast with. I was on the edge of my seat. It was super explosive. The movie has a ton of plot twists. Now, I'm giving this movie a lot of praise because at the end of the day, I really did have a lot of fun with this movie, but it is not perfect. And like with all Sam Raimi films, he does have some really, really cheesy dialogue in there. He does take some creative liberties with some of the things with Dylan O'Brien's character that I found was kind of out of place. He has a very cringy, iconic laugh in this movie. It's like that snarky asshole boss laugh that he does, and he chooses to let Dylan O'Brien do it in moments where it just feels out of place, where like tensions at an all-time high and you guys are at each other's throats, and he has this laugh that he just throws in there, and it feels a little cheesy, a little Sunday morning cartoony, and not something that somebody in this specific situation would be doing. And there's also a problem that I have with just the overall way Rachel McAdams is treated in the beginning of this film. These people are so mean to her, and they're so terrible to her, and they say such awful things to her, and they make fun of her. And it's one thing to talk shit about a person behind their back. It's one thing to make a comment or two, but there are like scenes in this where Dylan O'Brien and his friends are pretty much ganging up on her and like laughing in her face about something they see on the internet from her that I don't want to spoil here. They just seem way too over the top cruel, like a mustache twirling evil villain on a Sunday morning cartoon. Like, they are so mean, and I get it. You do this so that when most of those people lose their lives on the plane, you don't really care. And I understand that they do that because they want you to be so badly in Rachel McAdams' side, at least in the beginning of this movie, that they really want you to hate everybody else, including Dylan O'Brien. But it just felt too over the top. I wish they found more organic ways to show a more realistic approach to why she would hate this boss. But instead, like I said, they make him like a Sunday morning cartoon, like a super asshole, like more so than anyone would ever actually be. And maybe there are people that are really that cruel, but it felt a little cartoony for the first 15 to 20 minutes, or like it felt like a satire, if you will, like someone making fun of an evil boss, treating like the quirky, weird girl at work. And lastly, I don't like really how the movie ends, if I'm being honest. You liking the ending is going to depend entirely on how you like things to end, what your taste is, whose side you're on at the end of the film. There's a lot of factors that goes into it, and I can't stress this enough. It's not a bad ending. It's not poorly written. It's very smart, and it's earned, but it's very much so kind of like the movie Warrior, where Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton, where they're the two brothers that are fighting in the UFC fight. That movie does a great job of getting you on board with both brothers, so by the end of it, you don't really know who you want to win because they both have a noble cause. It's kind of like that, where by the end of it, it's going to really depend on whose side you're on. Are you a Giants fan or a Cowboys fan? It's just whatever side you fall on, whoever team you're rooting for. If you're rooting for the opposite team, then you're probably going to be disappointed with the ending. I was a little disappointed with the ending, but again, that doesn't mean that it's bad. But overall, this is a great film. This is a great return for Sam Raimi. Clearly, he made this film for 20th Century Studios, which is now owned by Disney, and I truly believe he got this film greenlit after the success that he had with directing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. And I hope he keeps doing these one for me, one for yous. That's kind of Nolan's approach. He'll go and make a blockbuster film like Batman, and then he goes and does Inception. Then he makes, The Dark Knight, and then he goes and does The Prestige, and then he goes and does another Batman, and then he does this. And it's a nice balance that these creatives have with studios, where it's like, I'll do a big blockbuster movie for you, but then let me go and do this smaller, quirkier horror film for me. And that seems like what they did here, and I hope he gets to continue making movies that he has his full creative say on, because even though in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it did feel like a Sam Raimi film, it was the least Sam Raimi film I've ever watched, because they need to kind of have him pulled back a little bit, because it's still part of this bigger universe where it has to tonally fit in. But I love seeing Sam Raimi let loose and do things like this, Drag Me to Hell. The Evil Dead 2 is my favorite Sam Raimi film of all time. I absolutely love that film. This is definitely up there in terms of one of his best movies. It's just truly, truly, truly a really fun throw popcorn in your face time, and I cannot recommend it enough. I'm gonna give this film an 8 out of 10. But what do you guys think? Are you excited to see this film? Do you think the chemistry looks great between Rachel McAdams and Dylan O'Brien? Did you know that this was a Sam Raimi film before I said anything? And did my review sway your opinion on whether or not you want to see it? Let's talk about it in the comments down below. And as always, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your weekend, and I'll catch you next time.